Greetings, this is Choo Choo Dino speaking, and I have returned back to my little side project here for Doan's custom of a Zaku 2. So this was supposed to be a simple project, really it was, but due to a combination of lack of interest and laziness and life just kind of having things come my way, I kind of just forgot about this, even though I finished it like months ago. So here I am once again, but yeah, so I'm now going to finish this project one way or another, and so I just thought I'd document it and show the world. So without further ado, let's get this started. So as I stated in the last part, I was going to basically clean the parts and get it ready for painting. For painting, it's not that very difficult, especially when I had a spray booth and I have some Dawn dish soap to clean the parts, and it's a Zaku, right? So it's not a very complicated color palette to work with. It's just like 3 colors, 4 max, if you really wanted to. So it was very easy to just simply put it all in a bowl, Dawn dish soap, sift it out, and wash all the grime, grease, and whatever you had on your fingers when you were working on this thing. And, very simple about that. Not that too complicated of a process. Just don't overthink it. For paints, I decided to use some acrylics with a light green from AK and a medium green from AK. And last but not least, a NATO Black, also from AK. All miniature paints, which would have been used for like Warhammer 40k or other miniatures and stuff like that. And Mr. Surfacer 1000 for the priming process. So, for spray painting anything, you definitely want to make sure you have the proper face masks when doing this, which, as you can clearly see, I sort of had the proper face mask. It's mostly designed for wood and, dust particles, which, I would recommend getting like a spray paint mask, like the ones you would see with like those big filters on them. Definitely don't do what I'm doing here. But I do have proper ventilation with my spray booth, and I have multiple fans running at the exact same time in my apartment, and making sure that there's plenty of airflow, especially when you're working with Mr. Surfacer, which, even though itself is not really a paint per se, it is a lacquer spray can. So, it will have fumes in it, so definitely make sure you have plenty of ventilation when doing so. I do not condone doing it this close in many indoor places. Paint outside if you can. I just couldn't, because there was some, bad weather here and there, and a little bit spotty during this year. So that couldn't be helped. Next came thinning the paint, which I used isopropyl alcohol instead of water, even though these are acrylic paints. From what I've read online, in multiple different sources, mostly Reddit, isopropyl alcohol works much better when it comes to thinning paints in comparison to using like bottled water. Distilled water probably would be working just as well. In fact, I think during this process I might have done both, just interchanging, seeing what worked better. Definitely test your paints though too, which you'll be seeing later on in this video, which is what I did. For the thinning ratio, usually you want to go for 1:1 is what I've read online. And for this project, I think I thinned them a little more than they should have been. I could have been wrong, because I was mostly eyeballing this. I did not use, like, a scale weight. I didn't really use any, like, milliliters or anything of the sort. I just went with the classic skim milk test, which basically you mix the mixture together and until you get a consistency of what's known as skim milk. Which, when I looked up online, apparently it means if it's attached to the side of the cup or container and just kind of drips down and does it, if it does it too quickly, it's too loose. If it doesn't do it at all, it's too thick. Something along those lines. It's kind of like that Goldilocks effect. You'll know it when you see it. Trust me, man. as I mentioned before, definitely test your paints, which is what I'm doing here with this plastic spoon. A lot of these came from the dollar store, so like, about a pack of 100 of them was like $5, maybe even less. Definitely do use these, because the plastic on spoons are usually roughly the same material as on Gunpla kits, or even model kits of other builds of that sort. But anyway, test your paints, is what I'm trying to say. Definitely test them, because I'm glad that I did with this, because it was the right consistency, and if it wasn't, I would have been just wasting a spoon rather than a part. I guess now would be a good a time as ever to kind of go with my overall final thoughts on this project, which, being on the back burner for so long, it actually does feel quite wonderful and satisfying, too, to actually see it all come together. Especially around this part here, when I look back on my past self and see how silly it is for me to be so amazed by the final result. Overall, looking back on this project, I'd say this was a very important stepping stone for my potential of being a customizer. Especially when it comes to painting process, like I've learned a lot, and hopefully I'll be able to keep those lessons learned for future projects down the line. I may come back to making another Zaku custom in the future. Maybe not Dewan's, but definitely, somebody major character or something like that. Or maybe a custom that isn't made very often. But regardless, I definitely learned that acrylic paints definitely thin a lot better depending on what you use for thinning. Spray gun definitely is a must-have for anybody who wants to get serious about this. But spray cans still work just as well. Matter of fact, I might actually go back and use just spray cans for a little while until I decide to get that itch to scratch again for doing custom paints for the future. But regardless, I'm satisfied with this build. And even if it's not top-coated, I will top-coat it in the future when it warms up, because currently right now, as the time of recording, it is October, and yeah, it's cold outside. So, not gonna deal with that. So yeah, with that being said, we'll show off the painted parts on the skewers and then go to the final assembly. I hope you guys enjoyed, and you have a wonderful rest of your day.